My name is Fenella Kerneborne, and I am one of the National Trust board directors here, of course, for the National Trust of New South Wales, and I'm also the head of curation with TEDx Sydney. And welcome very much to you for what is a very special tour of the 2020 exhibition of the Portia Geach Memorial Award finalists. So before I continue, of course, I would firstly like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we all meet today, wherever you may be here in Australia. For me, I'm on Dharawal country, so I pay my respects to the elders past and present and emerging on Dharawal country. Also pay respects for the elders for Jane, who is at the SH Ervin Gallery, and that is, of course, Gadigal land and the people of the Eora Nation as well. So we all pay our respects to traditional owners of the past, the present, and those emerging. And again, welcome to you, our supporters, whether you're a patron, guardian, donor, or a member of the Annie Wyatt Bequest Circle. We're joined also by some of our fellow board directors, and of course that includes our president, Neil Wykes. So welcome to you, Neil. Good to see you here. Now, today, Jane is going to be taking you through the SH Ervin Gallery, the National Trust's Sydney Art Gallery, to look at some of the finalists of the Portia Geach Memorial Award exhibition. This has already been filmed, and it includes 3 artists speaking about their work, and they include 3 wonderful artists, Wendy Sharp, Justine Muller, and Caroline Zielinski. After the tour has played, then Jane and I are going to be in conversation, and we're going to be talking all things through in terms of the art and the exhibition itself before answering some of your questions. So we're going to play for you right now 15 minutes, this beautiful tour of the Portia Geach Memorial Award exhibition. Again, it's 15 minutes and a really good chance to see the exhibition if you can't physically go and see that in person yourself. So let's take a look. This is the exhibition. We'll see you back here with Jane in about 15 minutes time. Thanks.
Welcome to the SH Ervin Gallery and to the 2020 Portia Geach Memorial Award. The exhibition has been at the SH Ervin Gallery since 1989. The award itself was started by Kate Geach in memory of her sister Florence, and the first exhibition was actually in 1965. Portia Geach was an artist who'd won a scholarship, travelled to London, studied under John Singer Sargent, and was quite well acknowledged for her portraiture. Unhappily, she was at a time when women were not as well recognised as they are now, and she felt that male domination overwhelmed her career. Her sister, in her wisdom, decided to establish the Portia Geach Award so that women could have that same recognition. And it has been one of the most prestigious and long-standing art prizes in Australia. So I hope you enjoy the tour we're going to take today to look at the works in the 2020 Portia Geach Memorial Award. This year's award attracted 397 entries from artists all over Australia. The judges see the first submissions through digital images and select a finalist exhibition this year of 60 works by 58 artists. The judges for this year's award were Anita Belgiorno-Nettis, who is a trustee at the Art Gallery of New South Wales, Natalie Wilson, who's a curator of Australian and Pacific art at the Art Gallery of New South Wales, and myself, Jane Waters, director of the SH Ervin Gallery. The works in this year's award are very diverse, as one can expect. The award opened during the beginning of COVID crisis, so there were limited opportunities for artists to seek sitters. So you will find that many of the works are self-portraits. The themes, of course, embrace isolation. We have artists that are looking at themselves and looking at their current condition. The award attracts a $30,000 prize for the winning artist, and this year we also had 2 highly commended works, the first of which is Susan O'Doherty's portrait of ceramicist Mfanwe Gullifer. Susan O'Doherty writes of the work, weaving through her sculptures and textile pieces are existentialist themes questioning and exploring motherhood, domesticity, sexuality, and a sense of isolation. Her work resonates with a restless energy infused with wit, irony, eroticism and pathos, using the feminine form to help her define what it is to be human and female. I've centred Mfanwe sitting on a front-on with a resolute gaze, wearing a favourite olive green velvet coat, showing her as a strong yet self-effacing woman, intelligent, intuitive, imaginative and deeply sensitive. The second highly commended work in this year's Portia Geach was by Sydney artist Natasha Walsh for a self-portrait painted on marble. Natasha Walsh writes of her work, "This painting documents the changing surface of a small convex mirror which has existed as a little ever-present object within my studio. I find it fascinating how larger spaces become shrunk upon its small warped surface. Furthermore, it's impossible for me to look at the object without my reflection also becoming trapped upon it. In this work, I decided to play with the space further by placing a concave mirror directly opposite so that the space and my reflection were split in two. Over time, I became confused as to which space I occupied. It was disconcerting to be able to observe myself from behind as though a stranger, even though that was my intent. I'm interested in how this literal warping of space mirrors the way our inescapable subjective experience warps reality from within the prism of our own eyes and mind. I was ultimately attempting to visualise an escape from my own gaze. However, I only seem to have trapped my reflection further into a fragmented self." And on this wall, we have Katrin Longhurst's portrait of her daughter Maya. She says the portrait is a metaphor of her own life experiences. On this wall, we have a series of close observational portraits by various artists, including Jenny Rogerson, who was a previous Portia Geach Memorial Award-winning artist, and next to her, Yvette Coppersmith from Melbourne, who won the Archibald Prize 2 years ago. One work in this year's Portia Geach Memorial Award is a portrait of the late Jack Mundy by Justine Muller. Today, we have Justine to talk about her work, along with Jack's widow, Judy.
My name is Justine Muller. I'm a Sydney-based artist. I grew up in Woolloomooloo, and this year I painted Jack Mundy, who is both my hero and my godfather. It's a special honour to be able to hang him at the National Trust and at the Rocks, because without him, these places wouldn't exist. We all owe him so much. The painting that I did, I actually painted Jack himself while he was still alive, but I finished the background after we lost him earlier this year. And I wanted to show that his legacy lives on and continues. So in the background, you have the green bands, which he's most known for, but they're the protesters of kind of his time from the 70s. And as you come into the foreground, you have younger protests of today and the next generation to say that even though he's no longer physically with us, his presence is still felt, and he still continues to inspire so many people to carry on that fight. And I think especially now in this world that we're living in, people like Jack are so important. And it is my third time to hang in the Portia Geach. Last year I painted Uncle Badger Bates, and Uncle Badger and I have been fighting to save the Barker or Darling River. And again, I would say that's thanks to Jack Mundy that not only did I become an artist, but I started to follow a path of social justice and activism. So he was hugely inspiring in my life. And he can't be with us today, but Judy Mundy, Jack's wife, they were together for 60 years and they've been with me all my life. And I've invited her to come along, and I think it's fitting that she maybe talks a little about Jack.
Well, thanks, Justine. I'm honoured that you've painted Jack, and the painting not only shows Jack, but also shows some of the issues about which Jack felt passionate during his lifetime. And indeed, he continued right up until very late in his life to be involved in the issues that were important to him and important to the rest of us as well. And it's also terrific that the painting is hung here at the National Trust building, because during the Green Ban era, the union consulted a great deal with the National Trust as to whether buildings in particular were of architectural or historic significance, and about whether a green ban ought to be imposed on buildings when the union was asked to place a green ban. So it's significant that the painting is being hung in this particular building, the National Trust building. So I'm delighted to be here with Justine and to see the painting today, and also to have Jack honoured in this way. So thanks, Justine. It's a fantastic painting.
Thank you, Judy.
Another finalist in the award this year is Wendy Sharp, who herself is a 2-time winner of the Portia Geach. And Wendy's been kind enough to come in and talk about her work.
I'm really thrilled to be a finalist in this year's Portia Geach. This is always a fantastic show, and this show particularly so, I think. I've just loved walking around and looking at it, and I have to say, come, because right now, when we can hardly get out, this is a place to come. There is, there's plenty of room, and I'm sure you'll love it. I'm always delighted to be part of this show. I've been in it many times. I think I've been in it about 14 times, which is a hell of a lot, but that's over a very long time. So I'm glad to be here again. Oh, and also I've won it twice. So it's very much, part of me, and I've got a real affection for it. And I'm surrounded by some wonderful work. I'll tell you something about my painting that's here next to me. It's called Self-Portrait Walking Home. And I am walking home from my studio in the Inner West to my house, also in the Inner West, which I do every day. It's about half an hour. I do that anyway. But right now, in this time of the pandemic, which we hope is just a short time, we hope. But anyway, right now, I'm not really doing anything else at all. It's unusual that I'm here. I'm always in the studio. And the walk between my house and the studio is a time of thinking, of planning what I'm doing next. It's actually really, really good psychologically. It's good physically, but it's a good time between the ordinary things of home and then the imaginative things of the studio. And I'm carrying this person, which is kind of an alter ego. It is actually a larger than life-size-ish self-portrait paper mache doll, puppet, creature that I made that actually does hang in my studio. And she is wearing a pair of my old painting pants and a bit of a wig that I found in an op shop and things like that. And here she is wearing little Edvard Munch's Scream socks. So I'm carrying that, which means I'm kind of carrying all my own imaginative things, but I also wanted this painting to have a bit of a feeling of disquiet. It's dark, it's a little bit scary, it looks cheery and fun and carnival, but it also looks a bit spooky and very empty suburban streets. And I just wanted to try and get that feeling across. And it's great to see it out of my studio and here in this beautiful gallery.
The winner of this year's award is Caroline Zielinski with her portrait of contemporary dancer Anthea Pilko. Caroline is joining us to talk about her award-winning work.
My name's Caroline Zielinski. It's a real honour to be hung again at the Portia Geach Prize. To me, this is one of the most significant art prizes in Australia, and it's a space for female artists to tell very unique stories about either themselves or their sitters, and it's a real privilege to be hung amongst the artists that are hanging here today, and to be able to see it in real life, which I strongly encourage everyone to risk their life and come here. This is a painting of Anthea Pilko. She's a contemporary dancer, and I observed Anthea. I would go to a coffee shop. I go to a coffee shop at about 5:30 in the morning every morning before I spend 20 hours in my studio, and she was at the same coffee shop, and for months I observed her perched in the gutter sipping her coffee, and all the chairs were empty, but she chose to sit in this gutter, and I was just compelled to ask to paint her because she just looked like a delicate flower that had, she actually looked like a delicate weed that had been blown off the French Alps. And so I painted her. And this is her in her signature faux fur coat and her Adidas slides. And she always had very bright nail polish, and when she was sipping her coffee, she'd put her cigarettes between her toes, and and then I found out she was a contemporary dancer, and that she'd actually spent the first 7 years of her life in a full body cast to correct a congenital hip problem. So I found that remarkable, and I think that has shaped her as a human being. For better or for worse. I think what I strive to what I seek out in portraiture is, I guess Dostoevsky speaks about the line between good and evil that runs down the center of every human being, and I guess I humbly and feebly I believe that exists in each person, and I try to extract that line. And I often believe, people actually end up being sculpted and shaped by circumstances, and how do you depict that in a human being, and how does that shape, a person's physical appearance. When I paint, I really, that's why I think people should come in, because it's very different in real life. The image is actually etched into the canvas. And that's what I believe people do. They, attempt to etch out an existence, and the paintings really fight to etch out their own existence. And sometimes they fight with me when they do that. And the last thing I'll probably say about it is these are the flowers that Anthea brought to the sitting, and part of me felt like they were an apology for having to spend so much time with her, but I was very touched, and I thought I'd include them in the painting.
Thank you for joining me for this tour of the 2020 Portia Geach Memorial Award at the National Trust SH Ervin Gallery.
Welcome back. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the tour that Jane just took us on of a really remarkable exhibition. Of course, it's on right now, the Portia Geach Memorial Award, and a chance to meet some of our finalists, of course, as well, and to really get a sense of what some of those images are. And it's a really fun and amazing exhibition with some quality artists. So again, great to see you all here. If you happen to have just joined, my name's Fenella Kerneborne. I'm very pleased to be joined right now by the one and only Jane Waters, who we just saw featured in that exhibition, giving us the tour. Hi Jane, how are you going?
I'm good, Fenella. How are you going?
I'm tremendous. What a wonderful thing to see all those works again I've had the privilege of seeing them, of course, in person, but to see them once again online and as part of this webinar is really remarkable. What's it like for you, just having a chance to look at these works? I mean, I know you've sort of really been embedded there for a little while, but what's it like for you to see them all over again?
Oh, it's wonderful. I mean, that's one of the part of the joys of having this exhibition each year is seeing the works, and there's, the longer it's on, you see more and more in different paintings, of course.
That's the magical thing about it, isn't it? Well, look, it was a really informative tour, and all of the artists that we had the great privilege to meet spoke so beautifully about their work and about the benefits of seeing this exhibition, of course, in person, but also online right now. It was actually really special to hear that Judy, or to see that Judy Mundy was there with Justine's portrait of Judy's late husband, Jack Mundy. That was really remarkable. And Jack Mundy had such a great connection with the National Trust. He was a life member, a staunch advocate for heritage places throughout New South Wales. And it's very fitting that he has found his way this year, this very special year, into the Trust's S.H. Ervin Gallery by way of his goddaughter's portrait of him. So, Jane, just to begin with, what other prominent Australians and Australian people are realised in the exhibition?
Well, this year we've got a fabulous portrait of Philip Adams, who appears in the shadows of a very darkened room, and it's a kind of eerie picture, but beautifully painted again. We've got actor Claudia Carvin, who you probably saw popped up on the screen, swimming in a deep blue sea. We've also got a young Indigenous musician, Thelma Plum, who's an emerging kind of artist.
I love Thelma Plum's music.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Yeah, and a really nice picture of her as well. And we've also got author and playwright Louis Nowara, and of course TV presenter Richard Moorcroft, painted by his partner.
Okay, so quite a lot of pictures that you can go and have a look, and of course some very prominent Australians. But the mix, of course, is not all prominent Australians. There's a real range of, and some fantastic self-portraits as well from artists, which I always love to see too. Jane, I was really impressed as well by the diversity in approaches to portraiture from this year's finalists. So maybe you could explain for us watching what you and your fellow judges are looking for when you viewed all of the entries this year, all 397 entries. What were you looking for?
Well, I mean, we're looking for works that essentially are engaging, a painting that really engages us and asks more questions than they answer. So we're looking for, portraiture really in some ways has traditionally been viewed as simply about likeness. And while that's obviously still very valid, we do want to see the kind of psychological aspects of a person and something that captures and conveys something deeply personal about that person. Then that kind of is more intriguing to me, essentially. And, we do, as I said, we're looking for a great painting.
And that's what you do see in this exhibition. How many years again has this exhibition, this award been running for? Just remind me about the history of it.
Oh, well, it was started by the bequest of Kate Geach, and the first Portia Geach was awarded in 1965, and it came to the S.H. Ervin Gallery in 1989. So we've been hosting it for more than half of its life, and hopefully for a lot longer too.
I would hope so too. Now, you were just talking before that the theme of what's been happening for all of us globally this year, the pandemic, coronavirus, it's filtered into so many of the works. And I think, I definitely saw that in some of the works in the gallery as well. Now, I know that this year is an unusual one. Okay, so it's understandable that artists are depicting this. In other years, have they responded to themes in quite the same way as we are seeing this year during the pandemic?
Well, this year's been unlike any other we've ever experienced. So I don't think there's any other themes or issues that have risen so much to attention and the fore. But of course, over the years, themes about women's role in society and place and women's struggles, and of course the enduring themes of motherhood are all strong themes that come through in most years in the works as well.
Okay, so there's always, this is the beautiful thing about the role and the eye of an artist, is being able to respond to current times, to think outside the box and find a way to depict that on canvas. In the case of this exhibition, you really do get a sense of what's been going across the year from an artist's perspective, but realized with paint. So it's quite an amazing thing to go along and check out. And I did love as well, Jane, watching, you know, Wendy and Caroline sort of imploring you, if you are able to and you feel like you can, to go along and physically go and have a look at the exhibition, because there really isn't, there's nothing quite like it, is it? Sort of being in a space, seeing an artwork and the size and the, you know, just the smell of the paint almost, is there?
No, you can't really experience on a screen. It really does. It pays to come along if you can. Yes.
It sure does. Although I must admit, you did a fantastic job showing us the artwork on the screen regardless. It was great to see that tour and to have that walkthrough. Now, as you were saying, the Portia Geach is a real highlight for SH Ervin Gallery and for the calendar. I mean, more broadly, we've just kind of been talking about it, but what is it that you really love about this art prize and this exhibition?
Well, the fact that it supports women painters like no other in a way, and it's also wonderful when the artists can come together as they have in the past, but not this year. Just the camaraderie and the support the artists have for each other. It's just really, you know, amazing. And unlike the Archibald Prize, which is more about celebrity, and the big heads, I call it, the subjects and the issues tend to be very personal and intimate. And about family, friends, and recounting stories of illnesses. And some of them are very heartbreaking and difficult and confronting, but they are really such personal stories that I think that really distinguishes the Portia Geach from most other art prizes.
It does, you're right, it does allow that opportunity for artists, women portrait artists, to show a very important side of themselves. And as you say, I'm even watching Wendy Sharp and what she said, she's been in this exhibition so many times, and she always thinks that it holds a special place in an artist like her, in her heart. You know, she's won it a couple of times as well. So it's a really important exhibition in the calendar. So it's wonderful to see. Now, the funny thing is, when I walk through that exhibition, Jane, I'm always surprised by how you managed to fit things in. So how many works was it again this year? 300 and...
Oh, sorry, 397 was the original submission, but we selected 60 works by 58 artists to actually hang in the gallery.
It's a tough thing to narrow down, particularly when there's so much talent involved. So, I mean, you sort of talked a bit before about what the judges' sort of criteria was when it comes to selecting works, but to find and place 60 works in this space and the varied sort of nature of those artworks as well, to kind of find a way to arrange the colour, the styles in that space. Talk to me a little bit about the challenge of achieving that this year.
Well, you're right. It is a bit of a challenge to hang so many disparate artworks and make it look cohesive and logical. But I'm always guided by the works themselves, whether they're colourful, tonal, painting technique or style, subject matter. They're all things I consider. So that actually really helps me how I place the works, essentially. And I find that's the best way to work with when you're working with so many different kind of painting styles and approaches to portraiture.
You certainly need to find a way to make them all fit in, and you know, and it's a story. As you walk through a space, there's always a different way of experiencing the works as you go through. Each panel, each wall says something else. So you're right, when you go through this particular exhibition, the arrangement says so much in terms of the types of works that you see as you wander through. So it's a great experience. Now, Caroline Zielinski, who she won this year, she's fantastic. The work is called Anthea May or May Not, and it's really unique. It's an extraordinary work, and her technique is so distinctive. Tell me a bit about what she does, how she does it.
Well, Caroline has this, you know, distinctive style of flattening and distorting the figure, and in doing so really kind of walks a line between grotesque and profound, you know, profundity. She really, in her works, reveals a lot about the sitter, because the distortions in the body reflect the condition that the sitter suffered. I mean, we can see that sort of tension, the wasting of the muscles, and she does this, but the sitter wears it confidently. It's not, you can feel that she's overcome this awful start to life and managed to have a career or a life beyond the kind of condition that she's had. Also, with Caroline's paintings, she's interesting. She always seems to always put her sitters in a context, which I think is always really important in a painting. A lot of, you know, portraiture can be different. It can be just simply a headshot, or they can be doing quite different things. But she's sort of placed her seated, and just used the elements she's used. The seat is very clever, the angles. There's a lot of sort of you know, compositionally it's kind of triangular, and also putting that sort of decorative element down the bottom and the beautiful kind of fragile flower in the vase just sort of reflected the story of the sitter. So that's what I think we thought was so special about that work. And it is an unconventional work, but it's an unconventional year. So it seemed to fit the brief perfectly.
It is an unconventional work. You're right. It is an unconventional year. And, you know, congratulations for putting this exhibition together and really showcasing some extraordinary women artists from around Australia. And anybody who's watching today right now, if you have a question, of course, don't be shy. Feel free to. We've already got a couple of questions that have come through, so thank you for those. But I'll be asking some of your questions in just a moment. But yeah, it's a fantastic exhibition. I do recommend that you go along and have a look at it as well.
Fenella, and it's been a very interesting year for you too, I'm sure. And you work across a lot of different endeavours. You're obviously a trust board member, but you're head of curation at TEDx. And that's a big event that normally happens, but I understand you're pivoting to a digital platform this year on the 6th of November, and you've got special speakers such as the wonderful Reg Mombassa coming along.
I do. Thank you for asking. What a surprising question. I said, hey, Jane, make sure you ask me about TEDx. If you don't know what TED or TEDx is, just a quick back sort of ground. TED is standing for Technology, Entertainment, Design. These are conferences that have been happening since the 1980s. And they're conferences that have gone around the world, and thus the X, it means an independently organised TED-like event. And TEDx Sydney is the one that I am very privileged to be the curator of. And we put on speakers on stage and performers, but it's all about speakers sharing short talks on a red carpet. And yeah, of course, as you said, Jane, we're not doing it in person this year. We can't. So we are going online on the 6th of November. And if you want to attend, you just have to go to our website and find out more about it. But Reg Mombassa, you might have heard of him. He's one of our speakers. And he was going to be joining us on the Red Dot, but he'll be joining us in our virtual event. But it will be in a studio. So everybody's in a studio doing their talks as normal, but you as an audience will be like what you are now, watching from home. So Reg will be talking about his art and his career. There's so many other fantastic speakers as well. So yeah, thank you for mentioning it. It's been a big year. So finding and shifting how we do things into this online world when we're so used to gathering in person has been curious, but I think we're getting there, and I hope everybody watching now is keeping safe too, and is coming along for the prize or the ride, I should say.
And Fenella, you know, it's kind of interesting, but we still do receive questions about why we host a women's only art prize. What do you think about this? And that in 2020 that does the Portia Geach Art Prize have a place? Is it still relevant and necessary?
I think it absolutely is necessary. I mean, I think there's even been some studies in the last sort of 10 years that have talked about the numbers of women that have been represented by commercial art galleries versus the number of men. And although that has changed, obviously, and the National Association for Visual Arts has done some great studies about this as well. It's the Australian organisation. So it has changed, there has been a shift, but it's been slow. So over a period of many, many years, representation is absolutely important. So being able to have a prize like the Portia Geach that acknowledges women artists is absolutely vital. And I think I said this at the launch, if you go around any of the major art galleries all around the world, you know, and particularly in those sort of more heritage spaces, we are looking most frequently through the eyes of male artists or artists that were born in the previous centuries. So I think we need to start to readdress these kinds of conversations, and by having specific awards such as this, and obviously also being able to see it grow over the decades is so important. It helps to create an amazing sort of body of work of women portrait artists that we can draw on over the years, and there's nothing better than that. The Archibald is one of those that does it very successfully and for everybody, and the Portia Geach has for a very long period of time been able to achieve that too. So I can't recommend the value of this enough. I think it's absolutely vital, and I congratulate you and your team for putting this on and making it happen, and to all the artists who submit their work year on year. It is really wonderful, and I love going and watching it and looking at the art. So yes, I agree.
Oh, thank you.
Does
Yeah,
that answer your question?
here to that.
I mean, I could probably talk about this till the cows come home, but I better not, because Jane, there have been a couple of questions. Are you ready for some questions from our audience?
Far away.
Fantastic. And then we'll be wrapping up very soon. So thank you for some of your questions. Now, we have had one question from Melinda, who said, thank you for a brilliant tour. This is to you, Jane. I want to know how long the Portia Geach exhibition is on for. If it's already over, what's the next exhibition? Tell me what's happening at SH Urban.
Well, no, you've still got a few days to see the Portia Geach Award. It's on until Sunday and it closes at 5 p.m. So you've got tomorrow and the weekend to see it. And that's your final chance for the year. We will be closing next week for installation of the Salon de Refusé. For those of you that don't know that, that's actually the alternative selection from the Archibald and Wynne Prize entries that don't make it into the finalist exhibition over at the Art Gallery of New South Wales. And they're actually releasing the list of artists today, I believe. And I believe some of the artists in the Portia Geach may have made it into the finalist exhibition there. So that's really wonderful news for them.
That's fantastic. Also, there's a question that's come here from Sally, and it's kind of a long one. So it's the question is, with COVID, how has the National Trust responded to what's been happening this year, to the pandemic? Because it has been a very difficult time for the National Trust. So how have we responded, and how do we see the Trust coming through this pandemic, and what are some of the positive outcomes from the current landscape? So Jane, should I take that one, do you think?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'm not going to pretend that I know all the answers. So fortunately I have a team of amazing people on the board and the wonderful CEO, Debbie. So, you know, I know that we're being looked after. There's a great organisation here, and it has been a challenging time for the National Trust, like so many not-for-profit organisations. But you know, adaptation and changing our approach has been what's absolutely important. So the staff, we know, have been working from home, like I am right now. I'm in my home, and as the National Trust starts to reopen, we're gradually bringing people back onto site. So that is happening as things start to change, and of course the circumstances across New South Wales start to change, of course, as well. Some positive outcomes, though, I love positivity, has been a really amazing chance for the National Trust to kind of fast forward some projects, and these include things like IT, so the technology that we use. So a great example is that we can do this tour today with Jane, with you watching. Hello everybody again. So moving some of these in-person events with you watching to some of these kind of digital platforms. And I think that's fantastic, because even when we are able to gather again in the future, we still can do this and gather no matter where we are, whether we're in a regional area or Sydney or otherwise. I'm a couple of hours south of Sydney, so that's amazing. At the properties, we've also taken the chance to do lots of repairs and painting, and all of this has been possible because there hasn't been so many people on site, so it's not as easy to do when there's public on site. So some repairs and painting, which has been fantastic. And another thing, I guess, that hasn't I suppose an area that has remained unchanged has been the conservation and the advocacy work. And our team, of course, have remained really busy and vocal in heritage conversations across the industry, all while working from home. So productivity is certainly continuing as at the level it always was, but probably going up as well. Bush management services, of course, they're lucky they're able to continue to work safely considering the current environment. They're outside. It's fantastic for the National Trust for regeneration and for environmental care, and it's continuing to provide income for the National Trust. So that's really important. Oh, and finally, Jane, thanks for bearing with me, because I think this is also important. We've also seen some real commitment in the form of ongoing financial support from some of our donors, and that's of course something that we've needed more than ever before, of course, or ever. So I guess in the last 6 months. And you might have heard that some, we might have heard from some that they sort of can't give right now, or that they've been less able to give for a while, but their well wishes and their encouragement that has been coming through for the last 6 months have been so valuable. So thank you from the National Trust to you for all your support. Does that get through it all, do you think, Jane? Have I answered all the question there, do you think?
Boy, you've done an amazing job.
I appreciate it. I was like, what is it? It's in my brain. I can do this. Okay. Jane, a question from Rob. Lovely to hear from Jane and Fenella. Thank you. Isn't this year the 75th anniversary of the Trust? Is it going to be celebrated at all? Have you been celebrating the 75th birthday, Jane?
Well, at the moment, we've only recently reopened. And I know the 75th is, based around a lot of events things. And again, they've had to be rescheduled. So, but of course, we've been, working, across the trust, we've been working on projects related to the 75th. And it's an interesting time, and it's a great time to reflect on all the work that the trust does and has done, and also look to the future, and the possibilities are endless, really. So it's a positive time, I think, and any organisation to get to 75 years, it's got a lot of stories to tell. So I think there'll be some wonderful stories coming out.
It will continue to be coming out, absolutely. And of course, the conversation for the 75th has been continuing across the National Trust's website, on our Facebook, Instagram, on our Twitter pages as well, if you happen to follow those on social media. It is a big year, the 75th. It's a really huge milestone for the National Trust of New South Wales. And as Jane said, we had a number of events planned across our properties this year that had to be postponed, and that's for obvious reasons. But we are planning some fun things, I do promise you. And we're going to be holding some of these celebratory events in March and April next year. So because of the sort of changing nature of all these health orders, we're not going to announce specific dates for some months yet, but keep watching. Things will be happening, I do promise. One more question, Jane, before I think we should probably wrap up. This one is for me, from Bruce. Hello, Bruce. So this is for me. So when will properties begin to open to the public again? So my understanding, of course, and you can go and visit them right now, but several of our properties are already open and they're welcoming visitors again. They include Norman Lindsay Gallery, also Everglades Gallery in the Blue Mountains, Old Government House. You can go along and visit that right now. In Parramatta, Jane, open for business, yes, at Ervin Gallery.
Yes.
Excellent. Dundullamore Homestead in Dubbo and Retford Park is in Barrel, and they're open. But we do recommend that you book ahead. So Jane, if you want to take a weekend this weekend when the exhibition's over, make sure you do book ahead to visit one of these properties, and also don't forget to check their opening hours. But we would absolutely love to see you back and enjoying these places around New South Wales. Excellent. Oh, finally, a question for you, Jane. What's your favourite painting in the exhibition?
Well, I was one of the judges. So I suppose I've made my choice in a way, and I'm very happy with the winner. So yes, but the People's Choice Prize runs during the exhibition, and we will be announcing the winner of the People's Choice Award later today. But I'll let you in on a secret. It is one of the works that you saw during the tour. So if you can guess, that would be interesting. But yes, it's a very popular choice.
Okay, I wonder what it is. I'm not going to. I have many favourite paintings myself. I kind of liked the Claudia Cavan's disembodied head almost in the sea. I think that's great.
Right.
It's lots of fun. So Jane, did you want to say a few words before we wrap up? And before we do that, thank you so much for your questions and for watching us today. We really appreciate it. It's a wonderful thing to have your company and to join us on this tour of course, the Portia Geach. Jane, anything you wanted to say before we wrap up?
Just thank you to all of anyone who's visited the exhibition, and also for joining us today online. I really sincerely thank all of the artists that enter the award, the finalists, and of course the winners and highly commended artists. Without the artists, there's no art gallery. So we really are so grateful for them and their support. It's been wonderful. And just to say special thanks to the guest speaker artists that came in, Caroline Zielinski, Wendy Sharp, Justine Muller, and of course that special conversation with Judy Mundy, who we're so grateful that she was able to come in and share her wonderful experiences of life with Jack and sharing all those memories of him with us. So thank you, special thanks to Judy. Thank you.
And thank you from me too. It was wonderful to hear from her during the documentary. I also wanted to say thank you to everybody who has been watching today online. It's wonderful to see you here and being part of the National Trust's webinar with Portia Geach, of course. Thank you to Jane Waters for your amazing contribution. You're amazing. What an incredible job. Thank you for your time, of course, today. Thank you to all our supporters, because without you, without whom exhibitions such as these, they simply would not be possible. We thank our patrons and our guardians, those who give regularly or those who've just given once. We thank you no matter what. My name's Fenella Kerneborne. It's been a great pleasure to be here with you today, hosting this tour and of course Q&A with Jane Waters, of course from the Portia Geach. And that is it from us. Thanks again, Jane. Have a fantastic afternoon, everybody, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.